From Derek Dooley comparing his players to German troops, Jeremy Pruitt's staff giving recruits money in McDonald's bags, and the brilliant idea of symbolizing your program with a turnover trash can, Tennessee football has been in the news a lot over the decade, and sadly they've become one of college football's biggest meme programs over the years as well. There have been plenty of crazy moments in the program's history, and as I was scrolling through Reddit college football, I came across an article that talked about the most bizarre moments of the decade at Tennessee, and I feel like this would be a really good video idea. So yeah, we're going to talk about the 26 craziest moments of the decade for Tennessee football, and the rundown of all of them and what they were. So please be sure to stay until the end so I can entertain you with 8 minutes worth of Tennessee weird moments. If you enjoy the content, be sure to give it a like to help the channel, subscribe if you love college football, suggest another topic I should do next, and turn on post notifications. I have no idea how this video will do, so please let me know and show your support. Now let's talk about Tennessee football.
I've been having hood dreams, ball player, rap star, Billy been taken, BMW, I ain't got no black on it, dog Vader. 2 twin Glocks and make them shake it like a salt shake. Ain't make it to the league, but I'm still ballin', I was born for this. Never thought I'd see the day when I can make it, should I go legit?
Please be sure to check out the really well done article by The Athletic on this, and I will leave a link down in the comment section. Now let's get right into it. As a disclaimer, I actually like Tennessee football a lot, and I want them to be good, so all of today's topics are purely for entertainment and not me trashing the program. Try and have a good laugh if you're a Tennessee fan. The first moment is Schiano Sunday. If you do remember, Tennessee was supposed to hire Greg Schiano, but the fan base was so irate and upset about that, they went out and rioted in the streets of Knoxville to protest, and some apparently even brought pitchforks. This was because there was a lot of bad PR and things that people didn't like that had happened to Tennessee over the years, and with Schiano's loose connection to the Sandusky trials at Penn State, the fan base wanted Tennessee to hire a guy with a clean record and not someone with his resume. They got their wish and got Jeremy Pruitt, and that day will go down in history. Speaking of protests and riots, there was also another one when Lane Kiffin decided to leave. When he left to take the USC job, there was a riot in the streets, and the fan base took to the streets to protest that they were sad that their coach had left them. In terms of coaches that were going to eventually come to the school, there were never-ending things called groomers. Basically, it was a rumor that John Gruden would come back and save Tennessee football, and people were constantly pushing this idea that Gruden was interested in being the head coach there, and obviously it didn't happen, and he had his eyes set on somewhere else. In terms of a very heartbreaking loss, we need to go all the way back to 2010 when LSU played Tennessee in one of the craziest games ever. With all the chaos that was going on at the goal line, Tennessee had all but won the game. Apparently though, Tennessee lined up with 13 men on the field, and then LSU got to replay the snap and win the game. This was tough luck for the Volunteers and Derek Dooley, but a highlight that we will all remember. The 2018 document dump refers to the 2018 Tennessee coaching search that was a complete mess, and apparently there were a ton of released documents on the whole search, and Mike Leach was also willing to take the Tennessee job apparently. After 15 days, they settled on Jeremy Pruitt, and that was the guy they wanted. Going back to another loss that was heartbreaking, we need to go back to early September of 2019, when they lost to Georgia State at home. There isn't much analysis to this one, as Tennessee lost their home opener to Georgia State, and it's technically the worst loss in school history. That was a fun way to open up the 2018 season back in the day. Butch Jones was a memorable coach, and he had a lot of quotes that will stick with him forever. He always talked about his players being a champion of life, and his players had 5-star hearts. When he wasn't winning, that's what he would have to say, and let's just say that did not resonate well with the fan base. Every school hopped on the turnover chain bandwagon a few seasons ago, and for some reason, Tennessee thought it'd be a good idea to make theirs a trash can. Someone came up with this brilliant idea, and not only did one person think it was a good idea, but the entire organization and staff thought it was a great idea as well, and I'm not sure how they didn't see that one. The only thing that could have made it more accurate is if they had something burning in it. Shy Tuttle was a star player on the defensive side for the Volunteers, and apparently he got in some sort of altercation with a teammate and got injured. Later on, Butch Jones told the media it was because Shy Tuttle fell on top of a helmet, not the other player hurting him. He hurt his bone pretty badly, and that's just classic Tennessee football for you. Jeremy Pruitt had one of the most iconic masks of the weird 2020 season. It covered everything except his nose and mouth, and because of that, the program was fined $100,000, and the athletic department was already hurting enough with the drop in ticket revenue, and Jeremy Pruitt just couldn't wear his mask. I will admit it was pretty funny to watch, and there are a ton of good memes about that though. In this decade, Kentucky finally beat the Volunteers. Kentucky is known as a basketball school, and they're typically a perennial power in that, but finally the Wildcats beat them in football this decade, which just goes to show you how far Tennessee has fallen off, and where the program stands compared to where they used to be. Tennessee fans don't like to accept this, and it's a concept that they don't like. Derek Dooley had a lot of memorable quotes as well. Going into year 3, he declared that, quote, "You're not going to have Tennessee football to kick around anymore." They actually got to kick them around more than before, as the Vols did not make a bowl game, and that line will forever haunt Derek Dooley. Volunteer legend and athletic director Philip Fulmer apparently had some inappropriate behavior at a football practice, and the SEC banned him from attending them for 5 days. I wonder what he did, and that was just nuts. Going back to Derek Dooley, apparently one time after a loss to Arkansas, he brought an orange dog statue to practice and said to, quote, "feed the orange dog," which symbolizes positive thinking, and not the red dog, which symbolizes negative thinking. Good one, Derek. Derek Dooley was always thinking outside the box to become a better coach and help motivate his players, and this is something I just don't understand. Staying with Dooley, how can anyone forget his legendary stool that he would sit on and coach from on the sidelines when his foot was hurt? It just wasn't necessary, he was drawing attention to himself, and it was pretty stupid. Plus, it didn't even work or make his coaching abilities any better. Going forward a few more years, Jeremy Pruitt once proclaimed that the 2020s would be the decade of the Volunteers and that good times were ahead. This would come back to bite him, as his actions and the team's actions may have just sent the volunteer program back a decade instead, and I bet he wishes he did not say that. This actually wasn't on the list, and this was something I came up with on my own, but every time Tennessee got themselves in a third down territory on defense, they would play an absolutely obnoxious spin-off of the popular song Turn Down for What, and they made it third down for what. It got really annoying because people got so sick of hearing it tons of times each drive. It wasn't like there were many 3 and outs where you just hear it once. You hear it 4 or 5 times every single drive. Hail Marys don't happen very often, but in back-to-back years, Hail Marys happened in rivalry games for Tennessee. Luckily, in the first year, they beat Georgia off one after Jacob Eason had a dart to Riley Ridley just a few seconds earlier. But a year later, the Hail Mary karma would come back to get him, as Felipe Franks threw a dart to Tyree Cleveland, and the Gators won in a walk-off score. Tennessee also had a terrible year, and Butch Jones was fired after that. Every team wants rings after they win a big game, and it symbolizes that you just did something that is special or a big deal. After Tennessee won the Tax Slayer Bowl, they collected bowl rings for the game, and it just showed how far they had fallen off to accept something like that. In the 2010 Music City Bowl, the Volunteers played North Carolina, and with a few seconds remaining, the Tar Heels purposely committed a penalty to stop the clock, and then they kicked a game-winning field goal and won. You may be asking yourself, isn't there a 10-second runoff for that? Well, that was the game that caused it. North Carolina would have lost that game, but that rule change came the following year. Going back to Derek Dooley, there was never a dull moment with him, and there's just so many memorable moments about him. Apparently, Coach Derek Dooley did not think that the players were taking proper showers because an outbreak of staph infection went around the locker room, and he had this to say about it. Quote, "We did a clinic yesterday on proper shower technique and soap and using a rag. We put some new rags in. Y'all think I'm kidding, but I'm serious. We talked a little bit about the application of soap to the rag and making sure you hit all your body." At least Derek Dooley promoted health and safety of his players, I guess. In another heartbreaking loss, Tennessee gave up a couple of miracle plays to Zach Wilson's BYU Cougars in 2019, and it was a heartbreaking ending that 99% of defenses could have prevented. With just a few ticks left, Zach Wilson threw the ball all the way down the field, and they completed a long pass. I bet no one would have guessed that. Any competent defense would have stopped that play or played a prevent-style defense. They ended up doing that, overtime came around, and then they lost. What made it worse was it happened the week after the Georgia State game, and I guess you could say that early September of 2019 was a tough time for Volunteer fans. At least Tennessee football is known for producing star players and legends on the field though. But in 2015, the Volunteers didn't send one player to the NFL draft, and it was the end of a 51-year streak for the program, which was just pretty sad. In another heartbreaking ending back in 2013, Tennessee was on the verge of a breakthrough win over a top 10 Georgia team. But in overtime, Pig Brown caught the ball and dove towards the end zone. But he lost the ball before it crossed the plane, so it was technically a touchback, and the Volunteers lost the game in heartbreaking fashion, and Derek Dooley's record against ranked teams got even worse. We have finally arrived at the final crazy moment of the decade, and if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to give it a like and show your support down in the comment section. You knew we had to end with Derek Dooley, and it may be the best one. Apparently he compared his players to German soldiers and said, quote, "Right now we're like the Germans in World War II. Here comes the boats, they're coming. You have the binoculars and it's like, oh my god, the invasion is coming." I don't even know what Derek Dooley is talking about, but what a way to end this video. And after researching this, I have a newfound respect for Derek Dooley, as he's just one of the weirdest coaches ever, and if he won more games, he'd be up there in Mike Leach territory. Well, sadly that wraps up today's video, as there are probably more examples, but we don't have enough time today to talk about all of those. I hope this video was entertaining, and if you enjoyed this concept, please be sure to give it a like so I can do more videos like this, and let me know your favorite crazy Tennessee moment from the decade. Before you go, check out all my videos about Tennessee videos, including videos about Alvin Kamara, the Derek Dooley era, Butch Jones, Jalen Hurd, Josh Dobbs, and Jeremy Pruitt. I hope to see you guys again soon. But until next time, peace.